Imagine walking into your daughter's wedding and watching every face in the room turn pale like they'd just seen a ghost. That's exactly what happened to me. My daughter Amanda told everyone I was dead. Gone. Buried. All so I wouldn't embarrass her in front of her fancy new family. When I stepped through those ballroom doors, she went from blushing bride to furious in seconds. She even threw a tomato at me right there in her $1,000 wedding gown. But when I picked up that microphone, everything changed. Guests started crying. Not from joy. From the shocking truth. About the daughter they thought they knew. My name is Robert Harrison, and this is how I came back from the dead to expose my daughter's lies at her own wedding. Before we get started, please subscribe to John's Revenge Stories and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon in West Des Moines when my daughter Amanda pulled up to my house in her sleek black Mercedes. I was in the kitchen washing dishes, enjoying the spring breeze through the window, when I heard that sharp honk. Impatient. Demanding. That's how everything about Amanda had become lately. I dried my hands and stepped onto the porch. She climbed out in her designer heels, tailored blazer, and sunglasses that probably cost more than my monthly pension. "Dad," she said, not even a hello. "We need to talk about the wedding." I smiled and invited her inside. "I just brewed fresh coffee." "Sure honey," I said. "What do you need help with?" "Florist. Seating arrangements." She set her purse down hard on my kitchen table and crossed her arms. "No Dad. Actually, I don't want you there." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean?" I asked, setting down my coffee mug carefully. She sighed like I was some kind of burden. "Be realistic, Dad. Brandon's family owns 3 car dealerships. His parents are members of the Wakanda Club. The venue is the Legacy Grand Hall downtown. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, a 5-course dinner. You'd stick out like a sore thumb in your old suit. It's embarrassing." I felt my chest tighten. "Embarrassing? Amanda, I'm your father. I raised you alone after your mother died. Remember how I worked double shifts at the engineering firm so you could go to Drake University? How I skipped meals so you could have those study abroad trips to France?" She rolled her eyes and waved her hand dismissively. "Oh please, not the guilt trip again. That was years ago. This is my life now. My big day. Brandon's family has expectations. I deserve this to be perfect without you dragging it down." She pulled a cream-colored wedding invitation from her purse and tossed it onto my table. It slid across the surface and stopped right in front of me. Gold embossed lettering. Fancy calligraphy. The works. My name wasn't on it. Anger bubbled up inside me. Something I rarely felt. Dragging it down. Is that what I am to you now? My voice rose. After everything your mother and I sacrificed. Amanda stepped closer, her face flushing red. Yes, exactly. You're a relic from my past. Stay home, watch your TV shows, whatever. Just don't ruin this for me. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I blocked her path, not aggressively, just standing there. You really think you can just erase me? After all these years? She shoved past me, her shoulder hitting mine roughly. Get out of my way, Dad. Outside, she turned back one last time, eyes cold. And don't even think about showing up. If you do, security will drag you out. I mean it. Her engine roared to life. Tires squealed as she sped off down the suburban street, leaving a cloud of dust settling on my driveway. I stood there staring at that invitation on my kitchen table. My fists clenched. My jaw tight. That's when I made my decision. If Amanda wanted to erase me from her perfect day, fine. But she had no idea what I was about to discover. A lie so cruel, it would change everything. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about Amanda's words. Embarrassing. Relic. Dragging it down. I'd raised that girl alone for 10 years after losing my Carol to cancer. But maybe I needed to see what Amanda's new world really looked like. So one morning, I opened up my old laptop and logged into Facebook. Amanda's profile loaded up. Polished photos of her and Brandon at fancy restaurants. Pictures of them touring the venue. Posts about wedding preparations. Then I saw it. A photo posted 3 days earlier. A single candle flickering in the darkness. And the caption made my blood run cold. Rest in peace, Dad. Gone too soon, but your memory lives on. I stared at that screen, my coffee mug frozen halfway to my lips. She told people I was dead. Hundreds of comments poured in. Oh Amanda, I'm so sorry for your loss. How did it happen? Was it sudden? My condolences, sending prayers. And Amanda's response, pinned right at the top. Thanks everyone. It hurts so much, but Dad would want us to celebrate life. The wedding is still on. He'll be watching from above. I sat back in my chair, hands shaking. Watching from above. I was 68 years old, sitting in my living room in West Des Moines, very much alive. Before I could process it all, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Dorothy Miller. That was my late wife Carol's best friend. They'd been neighbors for 20 years before Carol passed. Hello. I answered. Bob. Bob Harrison. Dot's voice trembled. Is that really you? Of course it's me, Dot. What's wrong? Oh thank God. Her voice cracked. Bob, I thought you were dead. My daughter Susan called me yesterday. Said she heard it from Amanda directly. Some kind of accident. I've been crying all morning. I even sent flowers to your address, but nobody answered. My chest tightened. Amanda told people that? Yes, Dot continued. She called Susan last week. Very matter of fact. Said you'd passed suddenly and to keep it quiet until after the wedding. Bob, what on earth is going on? I gripped the phone tighter. She didn't want me at her wedding, Dot. Said I'd embarrass her. So she decided to kill me off. There was silence on the line. Then Dot spoke, her voice firm. That girl has lost her way, Bob. Carol would be heartbroken. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my living room. Sunlight streamed through the windows, landing on the framed photo of Carol, Amanda, and me at the Iowa State Fair. Amanda was 8 years old, grinning with a missing front tooth, cotton candy in her hand. When did that sweet little girl turn into someone who could fake her own father's death? That's when I knew. Amanda wanted me gone. Fine. I'd stay dead. Right up until I walked into that wedding and brought myself back to life. If Amanda wanted to bury me, I'd let her think she succeeded. But I wasn't going down without a fight. I spent the next week digging into every detail of her wedding. Facebook, Instagram, every post she made. I found the venue. The Legacy Grand Hall on Locust Street downtown. Photos showed crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows, marble staircases. The kind of place that charges $500 a plate. I even drove by one afternoon, parked across the street, and watched as delivery trucks unloaded flowers and linens. I studied the layout. Main entrance with security. Side service entrance 4. Catering staff. Mental notes filed away like the blueprints I used to draft. Then I met Dorothy for coffee at a little place called Brood Awakening downtown. We sat in a corner booth. And I told her everything. Dot listened, shaking her head. Bob, you need to expose this. Not just for you. For Carol. She'd want people to see who Amanda's become. I nodded. I had a plan forming. But first, I tried something else. I called Elegant Affairs, the wedding planning company Amanda had hired. I got transferred to the lead planner, a woman named Carla. Mr. Harrison. How can I help you? Carla, I'm Amanda's father. She's told people I'm dead so I won't attend her wedding. I'm asking you to drop her contract. There was a long pause. Sir, I understand this is difficult, but we can't cancel a contract based on family disputes. We have legal obligations. Vendors are booked. Deposits are non-refundable. So you'll just let her build this wedding on lies? I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison. Talk to a lawyer. But we're moving forward. I hung up. Fine. If they wouldn't stop it, I'd handle it myself. That night, I went to my desk and pulled out my old checkbook. The one tied to an account I'd closed 2 years ago after consolidating my finances. I carefully wrote out a check. $50,000. Payable to Amanda Harrison. Dated and signed. I knew exactly what would happen. She'd deposit it, thinking she'd won. Then 3 to 5 business days later, it would bounce. Insufficient funds. Account closed. Just like she'd closed the door on me. I tucked the check into an envelope and set it on my desk. Then I pulled out an old photo from a drawer. Carol in her hospital bed, 2 months before she passed. Amanda sitting beside her. Holding her hand. I remembered Carol's words that day. Bobby, promise me you'll use the life insurance to take care of Amanda's future. College. Her wedding someday. Promise me. I'd promised. And I'd kept that promise. Paid for 4 years at Drake. $80,000 in tuition. But this wedding? Built on deceit and cruelty. No, Amanda would have to learn the hard way. The trap was set. Now all I had to do was wait for her to take the bait. 1 week before the wedding, my phone rang at 2 in the afternoon. Amanda's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Dad. Her voice was frantic, breathless. Thank God you picked up. I need to talk about the money. The $50,000 you promised Mom would go toward my wedding. I stayed silent, letting her continue. The venue sent their final invoice. It's due in 3 days or they'll cancel everything. The caterers threatening to pull out. Brandon's parents fronted their share, but I told them you were covering the rest. Dad, I need you to wire it today. Please. It's crunch time. I set down the glass of water I'd been holding. No, Amanda. I'm not sending a single dime. What? Her voice shot up an octave. Why not? You promised. This is my wedding. Everything's already booked. The deposits are non-refundable. Without that money, it'll all fall apart. You're being selfish. Selfish. I almost laughed. Coming from the woman who told the world I was dead. Amanda, you buried me alive with your lies. You think I'm just going to hand over $50,000 after that? Dad, come on. She was pleading now, desperation bleeding through. That was just damage control. You threatened to show up and embarrass me. What was I supposed to do? This is my life. Brandon's family has connections. Important people are coming. Without your money, everything collapses. And it'll be your fault. Mom would hate you for this. I gripped the phone tighter. Your mother would hate what you've become. No money, Amanda. Figure it out yourself. Wait, Dad, please. Her voice cracked. I'll invite you. Okay. I'll tell security to let you in. Just send the wire. Please. I hung up. 2 days later, she showed up at my house unannounced. I saw her Mercedes pull into the driveway around noon. She climbed out, and this time she looked different. No designer sunglasses. Makeup smudged like she'd been crying. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She knocked hard on my door. Dad, open up. I know you're home. I opened it. She pushed past me into the living room. Please. I'm begging you. Her voice shook. Brandon's parents are furious. They think I'm unreliable. The caterer called this morning threatening to walk. If I don't pay the balance by Friday, the whole wedding falls apart. I need that money. You promised Mom. She stood there, hands clasped like she was praying. For a moment, I saw a flash of the little girl she used to be. The one who'd crawl into my lap after a nightmare. But that girl was gone. I walked to my desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out the envelope. Her eyes lit up. Oh, thank God. She reached for it, but I held it back for just a second. This doesn't fix what you did, Amanda. I know. She nodded quickly, grabbing the envelope and tearing it open. A check. $50,000. Relief washed over her face. Thank you. Thank you so much. She stuffed it into her purse. I'll deposit this today. But Dad, this doesn't mean you're invited. Security still has your name on the list. She turned and walked out without another word. I watched her car disappear down the street. She had no idea that check would bounce in 72 hours. And by then, it would be too late. But I wasn't done yet. Because on May 30th, this ghost was showing up whether she liked it or not. May 30th arrived with clear blue skies and warm sunshine. Perfect wedding weather. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror that morning, adjusting the tie on my modest gray suit. The same one I'd worn to Carol's funeral 10 years ago. It still fit, though a bit loose around the shoulders. I looked at myself in that mirror and thought about what I was about to do. Was it revenge? Maybe. But it was also justice. I grabbed my car keys and drove. The 20 minutes into downtown Des Moines. The Legacy Grand Hall sat on Locust Street, a beautiful historic building with tall columns and wide marble steps leading to the entrance. Luxury cars lined the street. A valet in a red vest directed a Bentley toward the parking garage. I parked 2 blocks away and walked. My hands were steady. My mind was clear. This was happening. As I approached the entrance, I could see through the glass doors. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above a sea of well-dressed guests. Tuxedos and evening gowns. Champagne glasses catching the light. Everything Amanda had wanted. Everything she tried to build without me. 2 security guards stood at the door, checking invitations against a tablet. "Excuse me, sir, do you have your invitation?" The taller one asked as I approached. "I'm the bride's father," I said calmly. "Robert Harrison." The guard scrolled through his tablet, then looked up with a firm expression. "Sir, your name is specifically on our do not admit list. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." I'd expected this. I nodded politely and stepped aside, watching as more guests filtered in. Then I noticed something. A catering van pulled up to the side of the building. Workers in white jackets unloaded trays and rolling carts through a service entrance. I waited until the guards were distracted by a large group arriving, then casually walked around the corner. The service door was propped open with a doorstop. I slipped inside. The kitchen was chaos. Chefs barking orders, pans clanging, steam rising from industrial stoves. I kept my head down and walked through like I belonged there. Nobody stopped me. I pushed through a set of double doors and suddenly I was there. The grand ballroom. It was even more stunning than the photos. 2 massive chandeliers hung from a vaulted ceiling. Round tables draped in ivory linen surrounded a polished dance floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Des Moines River. Cocktail hour was in full swing. Maybe 150 guests mingling, laughing, sipping champagne. And then I stepped into the room. The first person to notice me was an elderly woman in a purple dress. Her champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. Her eyes went wide. Her mouth fell open. "Oh my God," she whispered. That's Robert Harrison. But he's dead." Heads turned. One by one, guests stopped talking. Stopped laughing. Stopped moving. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wildfire. "Is that Amanda's father? I thought he died." She said there was an accident. "How is he here?" Faces went pale. Some people actually took a step back like they'd seen a ghost rise from the grave. And then Amanda saw me. She was standing near the front of the room in her ivory wedding gown, laughing with Brandon and his parents. Her smile vanished the instant our eyes met. Color drained from her face. Then flooded back, bright red with fury. "Dad!" Her voice cut through the silence like a knife. "What the hell are you doing here?" She stormed toward me, heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. Her hands were shaking. Guests parted like the Red Sea. "Security," she screamed. "Get him out of here right now. He's not supposed to be here. He's ruining everything." Brandon followed behind her, confused. "Amanda, what's going on? You said he passed away." She ignored him. Her eyes were locked on mine, blazing with rage. Then she did something I'll never forget. She grabbed a cherry tomato from a nearby appetizer table and hurled it at me. It hit my chest and exploded, red juice splattering across my gray suit jacket. Gasps erupted. A few people laughed nervously. Cameras came out. Phones started recording. But I didn't move. Didn't flinch. I just stood there, wiping the tomato juice off my lapel, and looked at my daughter. Then I walked straight toward the microphone at the reception table. Amanda lunged forward. "Don't you dare," but I was already there. And when I picked up that microphone, her perfect wedding was about to shatter into a million pieces. I picked up the microphone and the room fell silent. Feedback squealed for just a second before settling. Amanda lunged toward me, but Brandon grabbed her arm, confusion written all over his face. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began. My voice steady and clear. "My name is Robert Harrison. I'm Amanda's father. Or at least I was, until she decided to kill me off." Gasps echoed through the ballroom. An elderly man in the front row set down his champagne glass with a shaky hand. Amanda's face went from red to white. "Dad, don't do this," she hissed. "Please." But I kept going. "A month ago, my daughter came to my home in West Des Moines. Not to invite me to this beautiful celebration you're all enjoying, but to ban me. She said I'd embarrass her in front of all you fine folks. My old engineer's pension, my modest suburban house, my simple lifestyle. Too much of a relic for her new elite world." Whispers spread like wildfire. Guests exchanged shocked glances. One woman in pearls pressed her hand to her chest. "But that wasn't enough," I continued. "To make absolutely sure I stayed away, Amanda told everyone I'd died. Car accident. Sudden. Tragic. Gone." I held up my phone, showing her Facebook post. The candle. The caption. Rest in peace, Dad. Several people gasped. One woman started crying. Brandon turned to Amanda, his voice tight. You told me he died 6 months ago. You said it was too painful to talk about. Amanda's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I can explain. But I wasn't done. For 10 years after losing my wife Carol to breast cancer, I worked 70-hour weeks. Double shifts at the engineering firm. I cashed in my retirement account to pay $80,000 for Amanda's tuition at Drake University. Skipped meals so she could study abroad in France. Drove a 15-year-old truck so she could have a reliable car. I pulled a photo from my jacket pocket. Me, Carol, and 8-year-old Amanda at the Iowa State Fair. Carol was smiling. Her arm around our little girl. When Carol was dying, I said, my voice cracking slightly, she made me promise something. Bobby, take care of our girl's dreams. College. Her wedding someday. That's what the life insurance is for. Promise me. Tears were streaming down faces now. Even some of the men were wiping their eyes. Dorothy stood up from her table in the back. That's right. She called out, her voice shaking. Carol was my best friend for 30 years. She loved that man and trusted him with everything. Shame on you, Amanda. Amanda's face crumpled. Daddy, please stop. 2 weeks ago, I continued, Amanda came to me desperate. The venue needed final payment. The caterers were threatening to walk. She begged for the $50,000 her mother had set aside for this day. So I gave her a check. I paused, letting the silence build. But here's what she didn't know. That check was written on an account I closed 2 years ago. It bounced 72 hours after she deposited it. The room erupted. Brandon stepped back from Amanda like she'd burned him. His mother stood up, pointing. This entire wedding is a fraud. We paid $30,000 based on your lies. Amanda collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Guests were on their feet now, some filming, some crying, some shaking their heads in disgust. I set the microphone down gently and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Amanda's wails, Brandon's family demanding answers, chaos spreading like fire. But I didn't look back. As I pushed through the doors into the cool evening air, I took my first deep breath in weeks. Justice had been served. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of black coffee and opened my laptop. The Des Moines Register's headline stared back at me. Father's dramatic return from the dead Penn Society wedding. The video had gone viral. Over 600,000 views in less than 12 hours. Comments flooded in by the thousands. That poor man gave everything for his daughter. Amanda got exactly what she deserved. I'm crying watching this. Heartbreaking but necessary. By noon, I learned the fallout. Brandon called off the engagement that very night. His parents demanded a full refund of their $30,000 contribution. The venue threatened legal action over the bounced payments. And Amanda's employer, a high-end marketing firm downtown, put her on administrative leave. Reputation concerns, they called it. Dorothy called to check on me. You did the right thing, Bob. Carol would understand. I wasn't so sure. I walked to my bedroom and picked up the framed photo on my nightstand. Carol, Amanda, and me at that Iowa State Fair 27 years ago. We looked so happy. So whole. Now it was just me and memories. Justice had been served. But the cost was steep. My only daughter, the last connection to my late wife, was gone. I'd burned that bridge completely. Was it worth it? Some days I wasn't sure. But I'd kept my promise to Carol. I'd taken care of Amanda's dreams, even when it meant letting her go. And sometimes, that's all a father can do. This story taught me something powerful about family, sacrifice, and knowing when to walk away. For years, I believed that love meant giving everything, no questions asked. But there's a difference between supporting your children and letting them treat you like you're disposable. Amanda forgot where she came from. She traded genuine relationships for status, traded her father's love for a spot at the country club. And in the end, she lost it all. Not because I destroyed her wedding, but because she built her entire life on lies. Here's what I want you to remember. Success means nothing if you forget the people who helped you get there. Money can buy crystal chandeliers and designer gowns, but it can't buy character. And when you erase the ones who loved you most, you erase the best parts of yourself. Sometimes the kindest thing a parent can do is let their child face the consequences of their choices. It hurt like hell to walk away from Amanda. But enabling her cruelty would have hurt worse. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and join our community here at John's Revenge Stories. Leave a comment telling me what you would have done in my situation. Would you have shown up at that wedding, or would you have walked away quietly? And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. Sometimes the truth hurts. But it's the only thing that sets us free. Thank you for listening to my story.